Chicken and waffle fries, a heavenly combo, but if you buy it at Chick-Fil-A, beware. Just ask Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey. He spent almost $30 at Chick-Fil-A and posted it on Twitter, and the Twitterverse exploded. One tweet read, "You must love the taste of bigotry." And this one from Soledad O'Brien. "This is an interesting company to boost during Pride Month, Jack." Yes, it is Gay Pride Month, and that's where this is coming from. 6 years ago, Chick-fil-A CEO publicly opposed gay marriage, saying, quote, "We're inviting God's judgment on our nation when we shake our fist at him and say, we know better than you as to what constitutes a marriage." Boycotts and Kissel followed, and Dan Cathy was forced to apologize. He then vowed to treat every person with honor, dignity, and respect, and by all accounts, he has. He sells chicken and waffle fries to anyone who wants to buy them. But hard feelings linger. Many liberals are accusing Chick-fil-A of much more than just discrimination. I'm talking infiltration. The New Yorker featured an article lamenting the fact Chick-fil-A moved into New York City, not just to sell waffle fries, but to evangelize godless New Yorkers. A quote from the magazine. The restaurant's corporate purpose still begins with the words "to glorify God," and that proselytism thrums below the surface of the Fulton Street restaurant, which has the ersatz homespun ambiance of a mega church. I just can't. Okay, let's talk. Joining me today is Ben Kissel, radio host and liberal political commentator. Ernest Owens, who is an LBGTQ editor for the Philadelphia Magazine, and John Phillips, talk radio host and conservative political commentator. Welcome to all of you.
Thanks, Carol.
Ernest, I want to start with you. So, Chick-fil-A, why the hate?
Well, for me personally, as an openly gay man, I don't want to be complicit in organizations or companies that have shown views that discriminate. I think Chick-fil-A had made it clear 6 years ago where they stand on LGBTQ issues, and I believe that anyone who is in solidarity with the LGBTQ community believe that we are deserving of human rights across the board, which we don't have nationwide or statewide in places like Pennsylvania, and across the country we don't have the Equality Act passed. Until we get all of our rights and have the equity as our heterosexual brothers and sisters, any organization that supports our condemnation doesn't deserve our coins, our support, or our patronage. So that is why we continue to boycott Chick-fil-A, and I think
I do understand where you're coming from, but John, to me, Chick-fil-A is different than the baker who refuses to bake a cake for the people who are having a gay wedding. Chick-fil-A isn't discriminating in its business practices.
That's right. And people are free to spend their money however it is they want to spend their money. When it comes to me personally, I don't hold someone's politics against them, even if I disagree with them very much so. Let's just look at what people do when they put gasoline in their cars. If you think Chick-fil-A has horrible policies towards gays and lesbians, what do you think the Saudi Arabians think when you go fill up at the pump? So you do, for me, I find a way to disassociate someone's politics from my business interactions with them. I have to do it as a Republican in Hollywood with entertainment. I mean, look at Jane Fonda. I dislike what she did in Vietnam, but I watch Grace and Frankie because it's funny.
Ben,
yeah.
I want to play a bit of what Ben Shapiro, he's a firebrand conservative, right? He is very angry about this issue, very angry. So I'm going to play a bit about what he said on his YouTube show, and then I'd like you to comment after. Here it is.
Sure.
This month, you mustn't, we're going to fast from all of the Christian-owned companies during Gay Ramadan, Gay Pride Month. No one must ever shop from Chick-fil-A, a company that has never discriminated against homosexuals in any way, but whose owners are against same-sex marriage. Anybody who shops at Chick-fil-A is violating the precepts of Gay Pride Month, because the gay pride jihadis are going to come after you and insist that you do repentance.
Repentance.
Right. So obviously, Ben Shapiro, he's being very hyperbolic, and everyone on every side seems to be more hyperbolic on a daily basis. I want to tell you a little bit about my personal experience. My parents are evangelical Christians, and both of my older brothers are gay. So I understand the anger and the pain coming from both sides of this issue. My parents did not go to my brother's wedding. They protested, caused a ripple in the family, and certainly a lot of emotion that went through, with that. And obviously, evangelical Christians have a right to believe whatever they want to believe. However you get through this life is up to you, as long as you don't infringe on other people's rights. And now that gay marriage is passed, that infringement no longer exists, at least in that regard. I do want to point out, however, this notion that the gay community is monolithic. It absolutely is not. And I did my own case study with my family this morning. I asked my brothers and my brother-in-law Don what they thought about Chick-fil-A. My oldest brother said he does not go there because he doesn't like their policies, although he does agree it's the best chicken sandwich. So he really is sticking to his guns there. And my brother-in-law Don says, hey, go wherever you want. You have the right to shop wherever you want. You have the right to purchase whatever kind of food you want. Don't inhibit yourself because of your orientation. And then my middle brother, we ended up discussing factory farming, which is a whole other conversation that we can get into.
I feel for you, Ben. I do. That's a complicated family.
It's a lovely family.
Okay.
It's good.
Ernest, I do want to ask you this question, because the guy who wrote the article for The New Yorker takes it one step farther. He says Chick-fil-A's mission is to evangelize through its restaurants. I don't really get that, Ernest.
Well, I think this is the problem when you have, a situation where mostly straight people are trying to assess and discuss LGBTQ issues, coming with anecdotes about family members, and not actually having LGBTQ people the opportunity to speak up in these situations. I mean, I'm happy to be on this show to be able to talk, but it's important to understand that, as much as allies and those people who align themselves with supporting LGBTQ causes can be empathetic, no one understands the feeling of going into an institution like a Chick-fil-A and knowing that its leadership and those up top do not see you as worthy of having the same rights as someone else. It's representational, right? I mean, you don't have to necessarily verbatim discriminate, but if you hold views like that and it shows throughout your institution, it shows in the fact that they're closed on Sundays. It shows in the fact that they have really pushed a very strong religious front in the way that they have the Christian toys that they serve, the fact that they're again closed on Sunday, the fact that they have religious biblical references in their mission statement. It's very clear that this type of belief system is put in their entire business. And look, some people may want to go to Chick-fil-A, but I think that in this country, there are those who are on the margins who have the right to really express their disinterest and tell others to follow suit if they want to support this. Being both black and gay, I've seen companies show racist views, and I feel like even if they don't discriminate directly on someone's race, I still have to affirm my comrades in saying that this is not a way that we put our dollars in. This is not the place to support.
Absolutely.
And I think that we have to do that.
Wait, John.
Can I respond to the evangelizing point there?
Yes.
The only biblical experience I ever have at Chick-fil-A is gluttony.
John.
Yes, that's a good point. And I do want to point out again, obviously the Supreme Court has made money speech. And I understand every time you purchase something, theoretically that is a vote in the capitalist society that we live in. I also do want to push back a little bit to what your guest said when it comes to my ability to be empathetic towards the gay community. When you grow up with two gay older brothers in a Catholic school and they both leave and everyone knows that experience, it does trickle down. So I do want to push back a little bit to that notion that because
but it doesn't trickle down the same way as that individual experience.
Well, you don't know my life experience.
You have the luxury to go to Chick-fil-A. You have the luxury to go to Chick-fil-A and feel the way that you want to feel.
I actually don't go to Chick-fil-A.
But I choose not to because I understand that those views will impact my life directly as an openly gay man. It will not impact you the same way. I mean, that's a fact.
It's just interesting. There's In-N-Out Burger in California, right? And they have Bible verses on the bottoms of their cups, right? And nobody complains about that. Nobody does. In-N-Out Burger is very popular in the state of California. So what's the difference?
Well, I think it's partially because their views don't cross over into rhetoric that is anti-LGBTQ or racist or bigoted. And I think that people can hold, let's be clear, just because you're religious don't automatically mean that you're homophobic. But some people have taken their religiosity and has pushed that into homophobia and bigotry, and I think that's the problem here with Chick-fil-A. They can have every right to celebrate their religion, but to translate that into anti-LGBTQ business practices or viewpoints, I think that's the problem we have here.
I think you're making a jump that isn't necessarily there. Just because you're opposed to gay marriage or marriage equality does not necessarily mean that you're homophobic or a bigot. I mean, that's the political point of view.
No, that's homophobic. Why would it not? Hold on. Let me clarify. If you don't believe, what is behind not wanting two LGBTQ people to be married outside the fact that you do not have an interest in seeing them as human? How is that not homophobic? If you are not supportive of same-sex marriage, that is a form of homophobia.
Was Barack Obama homophobic pre-2012?
Yes, that was a form of homophobia. Yes, you
Hillary
thought that
Clinton,
because
was
you
she
referenced a black
homophobic?
president yes, Hillary Clinton was when she had those viewpoints. You
Right,
think
I mean, obviously,
referencing a black
Did you say
president
that at the time?
and a woman is going to change my perspective on this issue?
And that
Did
is
you
why
say that
the
he was a
Supreme
bigot at
Court
the time?
ruled
People have
correctly
practiced
in
forms
favor
of
of gay marriage.
homophobia.
I completely
And yes,
agree.
and they corrected those viewpoints. They evolved
Yep.
from that issue. And so Chick-fil-A needs to evolve from their homophobia as the institution.
And society is evolving entirely. I mean, you look at the numbers of young Republicans, for example.
But Chick-fil-A
that
has
support
not.
gay
We're
marriage.
talking about
It's
Chick-fil-A.
vastly
Chick-fil-A
different
has
from where
not.
it used to be. Well, I mean, who knows
And
what
you're
they'll be
trying
in
to
10
tell
years.
this to a gay American. You're trying to school a gay American on the issues about LGBTQ progress. Like, that's hilarious. You know, I'm telling you as an American, yes, progress have been made, but not enough. Not when you're complicit and going to institutions like Chick-fil-A.
Right.
All right.
And again, the gay
So you need
community
to
should be allowed
evolve
to
on
enjoy
that. You need to
Chick-fil-A if
evolve
somebody
on your
so
thinking.
wants to.
I'm just interested, Ben. You said you
Yeah.
don't eat at Chick-fil-A. Why?
I'm not a huge fast food restaurant eater. That is my major problem. Not that I'm on a diet by any means. I just simply never really pop in there to eat. But that's just my personal thing.
Well, whatever the case, and I don't. I'm just going to throw this out: the Chick-fil-A's in New York City, despite the New Yorker article, I think they sell a chicken sandwich every 6 seconds.
Do they
in
really?
New York City.
Yeah. Because
Wow. Very
complicity is
popular.
real in this country. People are complicit with systems that are hypocritical to what they say. There will be the same people that will post hashtag Pride Month like the Twitter CEO person, and then also shout out Chick-fil-A, which holds views that are anti-Pride Month related. So that's the issue in this country, is that we see a lot of hypocrisy and double standards play. And, you know, as someone who's in the community, I'm trying to tell people who are in support of the LGBTQ community that you can't have it both ways. You can't eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich and then also say that you're fighting against views that are homophobic, and also question anti-same-sex marriage as being not homophobic when clearly many people in the LGBTQ community see it otherwise. So I think
Well,
it's
of
time for
course.
people to revamp their solidarity.
Gotcha.
They need to revamp and rethink this June, especially during Pride Month.
Yeah,
Okay?
and if
John-
you're a gay
John
conservative
Phillips,
and you
I
want to
think-
eat at Chick-fil-A or whatever,
John-
you're also allowed to do that.
Yeah, you are. And we all know about the hypocrites across both aisles.
It's a great conversation, and thanks all of you for your viewpoints.
is.
I do appreciate it. Ben
Thank you.
Kissel, Ernest Owens, John Phillips.